shock attack. And team come down, turn your back. Become me sweeter than the water.
So we are here with the lovely Miss Brown. If you'd like to introduce yourself, please do so.
Hello, I'm Miss Brown. I'm a Hampton University student, and should I say my hobby?
Yeah, you should.
Oh. And my hobby is rolling blunts, obviously. It's just become a side hustle for me.
That's awesome. Okay, so before we kind of get into like what the hobby is, first talk to me, like, what were you doing when COVID first started? Like, what were some of the things you were just doing as a normal person?
Yes, so when COVID started, honestly, I was just so bored. I was like, let me just binge watch everything I could possibly watch. I was on Netflix, Hulu, even Disney Plus came out, so I was like, okay, this is great. I'll watch everything. And then I watched everything, and I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. So then it was like, I was like, you know what? I need to actually like get a job because I'm doing nothing, and once things started to open up, I was like, let me go get a job. And then I ended up winding up with my hobby.
Got you. So how did you kind of get into marijuana smoking? Like, was that something that you've done your whole life? Were you introduced to it in college, or when did you start smoking?
So not at all. The funny part is when I went to college, so behind me, actually, I have a bunch of medals on the wall. I used to run a youth track. So I held a national record. Therefore, I was getting tested all the time. So I never used drugs or anything in my life. And then I got to college, and during homecoming of my freshman year, I got a call saying like, our record, it was a relay that I broke a record. I got a call that it was broken. And I'm like, okay, so no more drug tests, nothing for me. So of course it's homecoming, and I was like, okay, other people are smoking, I guess I'll smoke too. And I hated it. So I was like, I'm never doing this again, because I just got way too high. My body was not like ready for that. So I took like a whole year off after freshman year, and then summer going into sophomore year, it was just like, I started getting stressed out all the time, and I was like, maybe I'll try weed again, because I was like, I'm not trying to get into drinking and cause like a serious problem. So I was like, maybe I'll try weed again. And then I started smoking, but I had to teach myself. I didn't have a bong, I didn't have a bowl, like I knew nothing about marijuana. So I was like, I just have to teach myself how to figure out how to roll this so I can smoke it. So that's kind of how I got into smoking and rolling.
Got you. That is so crazy. Like I would have never known that you were a track athlete, because I guess I just didn't know that. So now that you do smoke, how often would you say you smoke?
It's every night, honestly. It is every day. I really try not to have smoking affect my schooling. So like, I try not to, there's people who can like wake and bake and do all that. I'm like, no, because I'll go right back to sleep. I'll skip all my classes. So I try to wait till like, okay, once I'm maybe doing a writing assignment at night, maybe I'll smoke before that, so I can kind of have some ideas flowing. But try to wait till all my stuff is done, and then I smoke every night.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
That's smart to get your ideas flowing with it, but just wait till you're sober to get the work done. But you do get super creative and all of that stuff. Okay, so you mentioned that, in the beginning of COVID, you got a job and everything like that. So, okay, talk to me a little bit about how this hobby kind of came into fruition, because I know you mentioned it started with some coworkers of yours.
So I actually got this job at Giant, the local grocery store, and when I tell you, like, this was the craziest job I'd ever gotten. I thought like I was gonna walk into a grocery store, it was gonna be some people my age. When I tell you this was like high school drama all over again, it's like there's people hooking up with people, there's like drug scandals going on, there's all types of stuff going on in this store. And finally, many people were like, you roll really good blunts, can you like roll me a blunt? And I had 3 coworkers ask me that. So then once I did it and I made some good money off of it, I'm like, maybe I should do this. Like, if people really like how I roll blunts, maybe I should do it. And it's like, basically, to break it down, I usually put around like a gram in a blunt. So that's about $10. But I can sell it for $15, so I make $5 off of every one. And and it's like maybe a wrap is $1, maybe. So I was like, I can make good money doing this, and it's like not great money, but it's like it's enough for a side hustle, and if I enjoy doing it, I was like, why not?
Right. So I know a lot of times with pre-rolls, people will get the papers. They'll buy like the papers in bulk. Explain to me why you decided to use the wraps instead of maybe like the paper.
Around the Philly area, you don't see papers often. Like, you really only see natural leaves, you see backwoods. So when I went to Hampton, I had no idea what a paper was. I literally thought people were smoking cigarettes when I saw like white things. I'm like, what is this? So I know people sell pre-rolled papers. So I was like, I guess I'll change the game. And since I'm really good at rolling blunts and people like them, I'll just sell blunts. And people kind of, you get a different high from blunts and papers. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's full of nicotine, that's why.
Yes, exactly. So people, and like, especially, I was working at Giant, which was, it's a predominantly white community where I live. So a lot of them had no idea what papers were. They're used to bongs. So none of them were really rolling or anything. So it was like them smoking a blunt. Like, whoa, this is so cool.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I can kind of play to my advantage and make some money off it.
So I heard, these are all anecdotals, of course, but I heard that like smoking weed could actually increase your chances of contracting COVID, while I've also heard that it could lessen your chances. How do you feel about that?
So honestly, I thought about that for a while with COVID. But at the same time, I feel like weed is one of those things where it like helps your immune system. And I have no scientific proof for that, but for me, I feel like it helped my immune system. Now, I think the one thing about smoking weed and getting COVID is a lot of people have smoke sessions where then you're obviously passing a blunt around. So for me, when people were like, oh, let's all smoke together, I was like, COVID, let's not.
Right.
So I try to be smart a little bit about it, because I'm like, yeah, let's all share germs. No. But I also knew I was kind of putting myself at risk just because of the whole smoking part. So.
Right. Well, you do have to lick the blunt, and you got to do a lot of breathing on it too. So how did you feel about that?
I had to really be cautious of like, I'm putting something in my mouth basically, so I really need to be cautious of like the cleanliness. So it did go through my mind. Sometimes when I'm high, it doesn't always regulate there. So I've been blessed to not get COVID, honestly. I've been blessed, but I've been trying to be as safe as possible.
How did you kind of advertise this little side hustle of yours? Was it just word of mouth, or how'd you do it?
So first it started with like one coworker, and then he was like, you really need to sell these. So then I was like, you know what, I guess I'll text a couple other coworkers who smoke weed, because if I'm going to be selling them here and I'm always at Giant, like it's an easy meetup place, which is probably bad, but honestly the parking lot of Giant is the meetup place, so easy meetup place. It was just like, okay. And then I just kind of started texting a couple people, and then it really went out when I told my brother, and I was like, I don't know how it's going to be telling my older brother that, hey, I'm like selling rolled blunts, but I did. And then he lives in a demographic of also all white people. It's just him in the house, and then it's all his white friends. So he was like, oh, none of us know how to smoke blunts or roll blunts. So they're like, we'll take them for sure. So then I ended up selling like 20 to them, because he lives in a house, like almost like a frat house. So I was like, okay, this is just like really blowing up. I guess I just need to really advertise. So then I was using my Instagram close friends too to try to like pull in people around my area. So yeah, I was kind of like doing it through social media, but trying not to be like too hot where it's like, oh yeah, I'm basically selling weed. Like, didn't want to put that out there. Yeah.
How much would you say you make?
So I make about $150 like profit. But when I think about it, like that $150, now I can go and buy like a whole nother ounce.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah,
I'm like, I really just made it where I'm never really losing money buying weed, which is cool.
That's awesome. And I always thought like, this is an unpopular opinion, but I almost thought that like people who sold drugs or kind of did anything along these lines, they're really business people. It's just the fact that like what they're doing, it's just so taboo because it's illegal. But it's like these people are actually smart. Like think about the people who sell drugs when they're like 11 or something like that. Like
it's like You know, if they chose to go and get a degree or something, they could really run a whole business. And it's like they are running a business already. It's just not necessarily legal sometimes. But yeah, like I realized I had to use resources because I really didn't know much about like flipping anything. It's like if you buy something for a certain price, why not sell it for more? Because somebody wants it at that price.
How long do you see yourself doing this? How long would you, I guess, consider yourself staying a certified pothead?
So it was interesting because about a month ago, I was like, okay, I really need an internship and I feel like they're going to drug test me. So I got to chill with the weed. I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to put a cap on it. I'm done. And I've said that several times and it never works. So, and this time I was like, no, for real. But then of course I get an internship with my church and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're not going to drug test me. Like, it was like, literally, I just said, sure, I'll do it. And it became official. I didn't have to like apply. So I'm like, why did this work in my favor that I don't have to stop smoking? Like, this is not okay. So maybe I'll just like wait until I go back to Hampton because now I know we're going back and I'm like, I'll have a lot of clientele. But I feel like for the summer, when my friends come home like around this area, I'll definitely have some more clientele. But yeah, now it's just kind of on the low right now.
And I think it's funny, you know, that you are involved with the church, but you would be surprised at how many people in the church probably. Do you have any internal conflict with kind of being so involved with the church and then having this kind of hobby of yours? Do you pray on it?
Honestly, yes. Because it was like when I was getting that internship, I'm like, maybe this is God telling me like weed isn't that bad because obviously it's okay. But then like sometimes I do. It's kind of like a two-way thing because I'm involved with the church, but also involved with the youth. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I cannot be the example of like a pothead. So that's why it's like most people see, you know, there's always like an image of a pothead that people have. And like for me, I try to at all times not give off that image. So it's like, even though yes, I have this business, I have this whole side hustle, but it's like, it's almost like I have two different lives and I try to make sure they never come together. So, and I know at some point they probably will. And I'm like, okay, you know, I know who I am and I'm a good person. I'm at least going to tell myself that. But yeah, that's kind of how I take it. It's like, there is the internal conflict where I know I'm a leader and I literally grew up in the church. So I'm like, this probably isn't the best thing to be doing. But then at the same time, I'm like, if I've gone this long with keeping both lives separate, you know, I just pray on it.
Hey, look, sometimes you got to lose yourself to find yourself. So, but all right. So I think that's pretty much everything. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come here and talk to me about this amazing hobby. I really enjoyed this discussion. Well, you have a wonderful day and I look forward to seeing where this goes. And I look forward to seeing your success and everything with your side hustle.
Thank you. And you also.
All right. You have a good one.